This is Meet the Author, and I'm your host, Tig Naran. Meet the Author is part of Rolling Out's book club series where I talk with authors about their new books, projects, and of course, what inspires them to write. Joining me today is Tony Christon-Walker. Mr. Walker happens to be a director of prevention and community partnerships at the AIDS at Alabama. He's a community advocate and activist, but most importantly, he has written a book, his first novel, his debut novel, which is Walking in Truth, Fatherhood, which is a fictional account based upon his life experiences as a Black gay man who grew up in the 1970s and 80s in Alabama. Walking in Truth follows the life of Marvin Waller and the path he took to becoming an adult as a gay Black man in the Deep South. The book is a story about hardship, heartaches, triumphs, unconditional love. Currently, the book, Walking in Truth, Fatherhood, is available on blackbookstore.com. If you don't have a copy of it, you can pick up a copy today and we'll get it out to you, and I think you'll enjoy the read. Before we get started, Tony, how are you doing today? First, how are you doing today, Tony?
I'm pretty good in spite of, we're in the middle of a global pandemic, I'm here. So
outstanding. Before we get started, if you don't mind, I would like for you, if you could, read a passage from your book, and then also kind of give the viewers kind of a synopsis overview of what Walking in Truth is all about.
This is one of my favorite parts, only because, like, even when you did the introductory, it sounds kind of heavy. This book is not a heavy read. It's kind of light, and this is actually one of the funnier parts. So I'll start here on page 14. I still remember my first kiss. I'm sure Samantha had no idea that I had never kissed a girl before. As I think about it, the girls in my relationships were always aggressive. They thought I was shy, and I let them believe that. It wasn't that I was shy. I just had no interest in having sex with them. One morning, while participating in the daily ritual of roaming the halls, Samantha asked me to go to the girls' gym with her. I knew something was up, but I went anyway. We walked into the gym and began to hold hands. Marvin, is there a reason you never kissed me? She asked. I felt a huge lump in my throat and said, no, I just didn't think we were there yet. We're there, she said, and took me to the back of the bleachers. We walked into the stairwell, which leads to the second floor of the gym, and we didn't go to the top. We kind of stood at the steps. Do you want to kiss me? She said. Oh God, I thought to myself, I never kissed a girl or anyone before. Suppose I screw this up. What if she figures out that I'm gay? What if I get this wrong? It's too late for that. So I said yes. She pulled me closer. I put my hands around her with my arms on her shoulders. She held me around the waist. In retrospect, we were doing this all wrong. Girls' arms are supposed to be around my neck and my hands are supposed to be around her waist. Our faces moved closer and very slowly our lips touched. The next thing I knew, she put her entire tongue in my mouth. What the fuck is going on here? Who sticks that tongue in your mouth? She did. I thought I was gonna puke. There's someone else's spit in my mouth. Our tongues wrestled for about 10 seconds and mine lost. Once it was over, I think there was a spit bridge that fell between us. At any rate, it was horrible. I was horrified. The embrace ended.
I remember that part of the book.
So I was a bit of a slow starter in all forms of teenage angst and sex. So I had never kissed anybody. I think I was about 14 at that point. And that was my first kiss. Now, like I said, I was like, wait a minute, who puts that tongue in their mouth? Now I know better. But at that point, that's where it was. I also want to give a writer's note. Sure. The girl in this particular passage, we still remain good friends, even in
that's awesome.
Yeah, and sadly, she passed away from COVID about 3 weeks ago, and that has
wow,
unnecessary death. But that was Thea, and it was so funny. But we remain friends up until her death.
Wow, that was a great passage. I do remember that part of the book. Question. You did throughout at least the first 2 or 3 chapters, you really did paint the picture of not liking girls, but you did a hell of a job of faking the funk when it came time to man up.
You have no idea how much. You have no idea how much of the funk I faked. Back then, Tinder, I don't know where you stand in the age range, but I'm 54. And, growing up, in the 70s and 80s, we didn't have all of the diverse cultural expressions that we have now. I mean, little
That's
boys
true.
were
That's
supposed to
true.
like little girls supposed to like little boys. That's what I thought. And so I used to be kind of a conformist. So in order for me to get along in this life, I had to do what everybody else did. So
Right.
if other little boys had girlfriends, I had to get my girlfriend. I don't know if you remember the lunchroom scene when the guys were talking about having sex, and me and my friend lied about having sex.
Yeah, and you. Yes, I do.
But and you do what you need to do to get through.
We've all done that. That's very true. That's very true for all of us.
Yeah. So you fake it until you make it, and then once I realized I didn't want to make that, I kind of like let it go and I never look back.
And those are two good scenes, and it just shows you for adolescents, especially for Blacks, you always had this kind of a hierarchy of the older boys, and you looked up to these older boys, and then at the same time, you didn't want to be ostracized from the crew or the clique, like, oh, he's this, he's a wuss, he's this or he's that. You trying to be cool. It's all about the cool factor.
Yeah, we're social creatures, and we're social creatures. We've evolved into social creatures, so you don't want to be ostracized from the rest of the pack. Ostracized from the rest of the pack, you want to get along. So I did what I did until I was like, this ain't me. I can't do this no more.
Right. So tell us about it, to get the viewers a little bit about the book. We've read a passage. We kind of give what was the intent behind the book, the real intent. Was it kind of a coming out or getting off baggage off your shoulders, or was it more just want to have a okay?
It was definitely getting rid of baggage off my shoulders. It wasn't anywhere about coming out. Only thing about it that is gay is the fact that I'm gay. Otherwise, it's a coming of age story that most boys go through. My twist in that was I just happened to be gay and shouldn't have been in that situation to begin with. But it's about young love. My granddaughter just broke up with a boy that she was really, really involved with, and it's just like the heartbreak of being young. All the things that you go through, all the rites of passage that we have to go through as kids. So, the book was about me being that young guy, doing what I needed to do to survive, figuring out a way to get out of this mess that I had created. Because, at the end of the day, when you end up having 2 kids and you're in college, that's a bit of a mess. So and then I realized in college that I was gay, and I'm like, okay. No, I started acting upon my gayness. I've always known I was gay. But then I'm sitting there like, crap, I don't want to drag her into this life. So what do? I figured out a way to make her break up with me.
Right.
So, it's one of those things. I'm trying to right a wrong that I did, but I end up creating another wrong in the process, and fast forward, both of the boys make it to maturity, but there was always this doubt about the second one. I mean, he didn't look like me.
I understand.
People get upset when I say this, but there are a lot of similarities between us and other mammals. Like if you ever watched any nature shows, if there's a male, an alpha male, if there's a child that's not his, he kills it.
Especially the lions. The lions.
Yeah. We've evolved beyond that, but that child, in their lizard brain still knows this ain't my dad. Like we were never like close, not as close as me and my older son, but especially when he was a baby, there was a lot of standoffs. Like this don't look right to me, even though I'm a baby. This don't look right. So we never really had that bond that we needed. But I mean, he was a good kid.
Yes.
He was on a football scholarship. I bought him 2 cars, which caused problems with my other son. But it wasn't until he got sick and a prelude to his dying that I found out he really wasn't my child. I always had my doubts. I'm not going to say that I didn't think that, but I had my doubts. And 3 weeks to him before he passed away, my worst fears were realized. So the second part.
How did you find out?
So, like I said, I think I've always kind of known. And the way I wrote the book, like I tell the story, and then once he dies, I come back and I tell the story again.
Gotcha.
Because it's kind of like on Hamilton when they did that rewind part. Like I had to rewind it because there are a lot of things that I didn't know. So like he was in palliative care, you know, where they just kind of make you comfortable. And one morning I was sitting on the sofa and his girlfriend was sitting next to me. And I had been bothered because one of my high school friends had been coming up a lot. Like this brother was there like as much as I was. And you know, I'm smart. You ain't got to be a rocket scientist to put stuff together. And I called his mom, called my son's mom. I'm like, listen, I said, I don't know what y'all got going on, but I'm asking you to do one thing. Do not disrespect my relationship between me and my son. And she goes, what do you mean? I said, you know, if he's up here, you need to let me know so I don't come. If I'm here, you need to let him know so he doesn't come. And she was more than willing to do that. Because what I didn't know was she didn't want us to talk. So it wasn't until after he died that I think I'm a decent individual. I'm not perfect, but I think I'm decent. But I know that I had raised that boy for 23 years.
Exactly.
You know? And I know that he knew that he was his father at that point. But I wondered, you know, what time had they got to spend together? You know, I'm mourning
that's deep.
But I'm also mourning his loss as well. You know, and a lot of brothers would be like, screw that nigga. But I was like, let me call him. I'm a very empathetic. I'm an emotional Pisces. So like, I'm very empathetic. So like, I called him like, man, how are you doing? He's like, I'm okay. How are you doing? I'm like, I'm good. But you know, I'm really like seriously wondering how you doing. I mean, I know you didn't really get a chance to spend the time with him that I did. You know, I just want to check how you doing. I said, because I never knew you were his father. He goes, you didn't know? I'm like, no, I didn't know. And so he starts, that's when the story rewinds. Like he literally takes
that is really deep.
A baby and how she came to him like, this is your son, but Tony's raising. You know, even there's another part of the book, like I said, in no way I'm anybody's hero. Let me just say that. But when, you know, I don't know if you got kids or not, or if you with the person, if you're not with the person that you have kids with, they drag you in the court every two years or so. For
whatever they can. Yes, that's right.
And I have never been opposed to paying child support. Like when I was a student, that was one thing. But when I had a job, I put myself on child support. So there comes a point when my oldest son is 18, my youngest son is 16. The oldest son decides he wants to come stay with me. And, you know, the youngest child stays with his folks. Well, they drug us in for one of those child support modification hearings. And I don't know if my ex knew this or not, but the judge says this. Well, Mr. Walker says you have one child and she has one child. We're not going to order child support. At that time, I was working for Cox Radio, making more money than I knew what to do with. And I said, Your Honor, can I say something? And she looks at me and she goes, sure. My lawyer is sitting there like,
don't say anything.
So I said, I know I make more money than she does. Do you mind if I still give her? It was either $300 or $400 a month because I was paying $900 a month child support. For me to pay $300, that's a win.
That was easy. Yeah,
that was easy. So the lawyer literally looks at my the judge literally looks at my lawyer and goes, "Where you get him from?" This is a white one.
It's still a few good brothers out there.
But she was like, "Where you get him from?" Because I guess in her time on the bench, that had never happened.
I'm sure it hasn't, because every brother's trying to get out if he can.
Bro, let me tell you something. And for all y'all brothers out who might be listening, raising a child by yourself is a drop in the bucket compared to what you're gonna pay in child support.
Right.
Like literally, it's a drop in the bucket. Like it didn't even matter to me. Like, oh, I don't have two angsty teenagers in my house. Hallelujah, I can go out and park. But like, you have to do what you have to do. Children are highly overrated.
Yes. They're good. They're nice, but it comes with a lot. It's a emotional roller coaster that you have to deal with it, and I can only imagine what that's like for a teenager, and you barely, not even into adulthood, and you now trying to understand this whole process. But we see it day in, day all the time in our communities. These young sisters, these young brothers, they got these babies, and then grandmama is only 10, 15 years older than you. So there's really babies raising babies. So, the cycle is, we have to break the cycle some kind of way.
Yeah, literally my story.
Right. So the title, what's the backstory behind the title?
So if you knew me, you know that I'm a person who I'm kind of bold and in your face. A lot of people think I'm mean, but I have just been able to learn what my truth is and walk in it. You
Yes.
know, even like as being gay, I came out to my family when I was about 21 and never went back. You know, it took me a little longer to disclose my HIV status to them, but I became an openly gay HIV positive man publicly in 2013, and it has just paved the way to so many beautiful things that I get to enjoy right now in my life. In 2014, I was diagnosed with colorectal cancer, so I do a lot of advocacy for cancer, especially colorectal cancer, which is the most easily form of cancer to cure, but it kills more people.
Right.
So like being able to own your truth and not hide it and walk in it was the focus of this book that I wrote. And I'm about to start on my second one because I wanted this to be a trilogy.
Yeah.
And just like the first book, this will cover the same period of my life, but tell a different story. So this story is about me being a father. And one of my friends was like, well, you don't say anything about your HIV status. My HIV status is not pertinent to me being a father. It had nothing to do with me being a father.
Very
so
true.
I mentioned it in here, but it wasn't a big thing. If you blink, you would have missed it. But in my next book, it's going to be called Walking the Truth, HIV. And it's going to be a little bit racier. It's going to be me owning my acquisition of HIV, as so many people still want to blame other people for them contracting it. So like I've learned in my life, my 54 and a half years, to walk in your truth. When there were times when people had threatened to tell my folks that I was gay, had a roommate who did that. I had an ex-boyfriend who threatened to tell my folks that I was HIV positive. And one thing that I realized, when you walk in your truth, they can't tell it better than you can.
Amen.
So tell your own story. You can tell it, but I can tell it better.
Right.
And you can't tell it but once.
Right. That's true. And what it does also, and I like that. I like, by telling the truth and being transparent, it does two things. Well, the biggest thing really, you've already said one thing it does. The second thing it does is that once it comes out, I don't have to sit there and repeat myself no more.
There's a sense of freedom that you have when you don't have to live worrying about your secrets.
Exactly.
Most people don't even care about your secrets. Like I counsel people all the time who are newly diagnosed with HIV. Well, what if somebody find out? Don't nobody care about you like that. Nobody cares. Like we are not that important. And so you have to realize that. But once you own that narrative, no one can take that away from you.
You're right. That was a perfect segue, because you just led me right into my next question I want to ask you. One of the things I did pick up in the book, that you were very authentic, transparent, honest. And is it safe to say that was intentional? That was all intentional that you did that?
I can't be anything else. Like it's hard for me to be anything but that. And sometimes that does not work for me, especially in work environments.
Right. Exactly. Personal struggles. You also touched on a lot of personal struggles, just being a young man, raising a child or having a child, dealing with raising them, and then, pretending, and then, with a woman, and then also the hard part of coming out as being gay at the very beginning. But that was kind of like a kind of metamorphosis of a sort. So those struggles, how do you want readers to relate to those type struggles that you put in the book?
Oh, that's a good question. It's also a really easy question. I had a friend of mine, actually she was a former boss of mine, who read the book when it was still in the online form. And she was like, well, when is this going to be printed? She literally bought 50 copies of the book.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
And she gave them to me and told me to give them to people who I felt may be struggling. And so like, as the thing I do with all of my struggles is to put them out on Front Street pretty much, so that somebody can see, hey, I'm going through this, but I'm not alone. I'm going through this. He did it. I can do it too. And it's not really about me. It's about showing people that there's a different way. I mentioned earlier that colorectal cancer and colon cancer are two of the most curable forms of cancer. But as men, we've been socialized to, well, we don't feel pain, we don't cry, we just suck it up. Well, you suck it up, and next thing you know, you got stage 4 cancer, and all your stuff about to fall out.
It's too late. Yeah,
it's too late. So, like, own your narrative, own your body, own your own personal freedoms. And so, like, when I look at what I want people to get from it, is that I can choose how I react to things.
Mhm.
You know, I could have chosen to react to a lot of things in that book differently and would have had totally different outcomes. You know, I've made some good reactions. I made some bad reactions. I said some bad things.
But you're
And
human.
huh?
You're human.
I'm human, yeah, and I have feelings. And I think a lot of times when people see people with strong personalities, they think we're invincible. We hurt, we cry. I cry all the time. You know, we have the same emotions that other people have. But you know, at the end of the day, you choose how you react to things. And
Mhm.
by choosing that, you can choose to walk in the light or you can choose to walk in dark.
Yeah, very good point. This kind of puzzled me. I knew the book was kind of mirroring, depicting you. Why did you choose to make it a fictional memoir opposed to just writing a memoir?
You know, people like suing folks.
Well, you could have. I got that. I got that. But even if you wrote it from, and you know, what you have is great, and I don't want to say this in a way to make it seem like, oh, that it should have been. But even if you would have wrote it and just changed the name to protect the innocent, but you
That's
know,
basically what I did. That's basically
okay,
what I did. No, and honestly, there are only two things in this book that's not true. Everything in this
okay,
book is true. There are only two things that are not true. One is that in the book I referenced my girlfriend's father. Her father died when she was a child, so she don't even know who he is.
got you.
That
Okay,
doesn't happen. The second thing is when I come back from school and I'm living with my sister's best friend, and we have like this little one night stand. It
yes,
wasn't my sister's friend. It was somebody else. But other than that, everything in the book is absolutely true.
okay.
No improv. Everything is literally true. Sometimes even the words are verbatim.
And see, okay, based upon that, then yes, it could fall into the category of being, you know, a fictitious, you know, a fictional
Yeah.
memoir. But okay, because that was just probably the one thing in my mind. So, okay, you just make it a memoir.
That sex scene was hot, but it didn't happen.
How important is forgiveness?
You cannot move forward without forgiveness. I read this book by this guy named William Porter a couple years ago called The Shack. They actually made it into a movie starring Octavia Spencer. It's about this
Oh, I saw that movie. That was a great movie.
Right. And you know, the main character, Mac, has this encounter with the Trinity. But there is this because for people who hadn't seen The Shack or I hadn't seen the movie, but I read the book. But in the book, the main character is upset because he lost a child. And I kind of felt this book. His child was killed by this serial killer. And the book is about him finding forgiveness and moving past that because he was mad at God, he was mad at the world, he was mad at everybody. Yes. And not being able to forgive people kind of like puts you on the bottom of a lot of different things. And so there's a quote in there about forgiveness. And I really have just like meditated on this quote just because it is so, it's just what people should do. I'm gonna read a little bit of it. Okay. It says, forgiveness is not about forgetting. It's about letting go of another person's throat. Forgiveness does not create a relationship unless people speak truth about why they've done what they've done or change their mind or behavior. Without that, a relationship of trust is not possible. When you forgive someone, you release them from judgment, but without real change, no relationship can be established. It goes on and on. But literally, it's about forgiveness is more for you than the person that you're mad at.
Amen. Amen. And that is 100% correct.
Yeah, so I had to learn to forgive a lot of people. But you know what I find funny though, Tina, is that people will be mad at you about stuff that they did to you,
and you forgot about it.
You didn't forgot about it, but you didn't do anything to them. They are mad with you because like I'm pretty sure she's mad at me right now. I ain't do nothing to that girl. Nothing. Right. You told all these lies, these stories, and somehow or another you're the victim.
You're right, and a lot of times, and it could be over something as simple as overhearing the last phrase of a sentence that you didn't hear the whole context of it. And then all of a sudden, I'm mad at Tony for something, and I didn't even hear the whole story. Right. But I just heard the half of the story. And so then you want to know, why is Tigner not talking to me now? He's not, well, you know, just shut you completely out. Right. But you know, and I like what your quote that you read, and because I do try and just paraphrasing it, I try to tell people that all the time because so many people be angry and mad and hold this vindictive grudge against someone. But then a lot of times it becomes Christians who are the ones who hold on harder than anyone.
Can
And I
we
have to
call them
remind.
church folk? Can we call them church folk? Because they're not Christians. They're church folk.
You're right. We can call them that. And I have to remind them, say, if you know the Lord's Prayer, that is in the Lord's Prayer.
Right.
You can't, God, if you can't forgive others, God can't forgive you. So which means you're blocking yourself from even moving forward. If I'm holding something against you without even confronting you as a man, yo, Tony, I didn't like what you did, bro. But then after we understand each other, I apologize.
Right.
But if I can't do that, I can't move forward in my own life. And you said it well. I mean, it goes both ways. You can take it as from the Bible or from just moral right. It's the right thing to do.
Yeah, and a lot of times people won't apologize. If they won't apologize for the things that they've done, your responsibility is to let that go and move on with your life.
Let it go.
In that soup that they've created.
Exactly, because I say, okay, I forgive. Even if I speak it into the atmosphere, I forgive Tony for what Tony did. I don't even have to tell Tony that I forgive him. I forgive Tony so I can release that bondage off of me so I can move free.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, which is very important.
It makes sleeping a lot easier.
And it makes, yes, that's the best thing, because without sleep, man, life can be that can be terrible. Yeah, based upon what you do. Now, as an adult, from the time from your book, we'll say from the college on up to as the book progressed, as a Black gay father, what challenges did you face?
I'm just gonna say this. Well, I have not really faced a lot of challenges about being gay that I know of.
Okay, that's good.
And I think part of it is because I'm a cisgender, male presenting guy. Like, if I didn't tell you I was gay, most people wouldn't know. And that's a privilege that I walk in that I don't take lightly. I know there are some people who can't function in the same way in the same spaces, and they should be able to allowed to, because we don't do that. Interestingly enough, but I've raised two sets of kids. Like, I'm on my second kid now. My ex-husband now adopted my nephew. We talk about that in the latter part of this book.
Mm-hmm.
But we adopted my nephew. So I'm actively raising a 16-year-old. And we've had him since he was 8 years old. So there were little weird things like going to the school and let me scratch mother out and write father in. People call it ask the Mrs. Walker. There's no business.
There is no business walk over here.
Yeah. Most of my stuff is always anecdotally funny. I haven't had any real issue. People saying, well, you can't come visit your child at school because we don't want you gays up here, or nothing like that. I've had a rougher time being Black than I have being gay, and that's something that pisses me off. That's deep.
Now that's saying a whole lot right there,
bro. Let me just say something. White gay people get on my nerves because the only level of marginalization they know is being gay, and I'm literally sitting here if y'all just shut up and don't move, nobody's gonna know you're gay. It's when you start walking and talking rainbows and Skittles fall out that everybody know your business. I can't go anywhere without
looking at my skin.
Yeah, no, people see Black with me before they see gay. So I hate when people and there's a lot of this going on. I call it the oppression Olympics. Who's had it worse? And it's gay people, get out of my face. Just get out of my face, because just because you're gay, that's one thing. And it's not a choice. It's how we were born. We were born this way. So I'm not going to entertain that argument. But what I am saying is, if you have a marginalized identity that intersects with whiteness, you are a minority when it's convenient, but you white all the time and walk in those privileges.
100%.
And I don't have that ability.
I appreciate you saying that, brother, because one of the things that really bothers me when I hear white gay men say that their struggle is equal to the civil rights. Brother, you said it well. You can shut up and sit in the corner and no one will know anything different.
And let me say this:
I can't change my color.
I think all struggles, have some relevance or relationship to the civil rights struggle. Yes. Whether it's women's rights to have their autonomy over their body, whether it's immigrants' rights, whether it's gay rights, but I think it's a bit much to say that gay rights or women's rights. They're all civil rights. But until people can just look at you and look at the color of your skin and say what you can and what you can't do, where you can live, where you can't live, don't come to me with that. I mean, I agree, it's a struggle. I agree, but in no way is it the same thing ever.
That is my point. That's all I'm saying. It's no way the same, because our forefathers struggled, were killed, lynched, and murdered over simple things just by walking down the street. And don't be from Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas. You know,
in the interview I had with Munson, I told him about, at the same time frame when I was a little kid. We grew up in this little town called Dolomite, which is like 10 miles outside of Birmingham. But between Dolomite and Birmingham was the place called Fairfield. And we would go into town going to Fairfield. And long story short, my grandfather always referred to white men as Mr. Joe, Mr. Fred, Mr. A. They always called him James. And as a Southerner, you're supposed to put a handle on the adult's name. Like, I didn't understand why these white men, some younger than my grandfather, would call him by James. And so for a long time, I thought he was a bit of a coward for not sticking up for himself. And it wasn't until I went to the EJI, the Equal Justice Initiative. They have a lynching memorial in Montgomery. And I saw this placard that I can't think of the man's name, but he was lynched for not calling police officer Mr. He was lynched because of that. And so I'm sure my grandfather experienced that himself or knew somebody who had experienced it. So, you have a whole different set of rules for living because of the color of your skin.
Yes.
Now, there are some things that prior to 2015 that they wouldn't let us do because we were gay, but just actually living your life, no one's impeding you from doing that because you're gay.
Right.
Nobody said you can't eat at Chick-fil-A because you're gay. You just don't want to. I mean, it is what it is.
Right. What you're very passionate about the book, and rightly so. What was one of the what did you learn while writing the book? I know it was you, but what did you learn from writing after you put the pen to paper and you saw the finished product?
I actually learned, going back to forgiveness, I learned like the beauty and the power of forgiveness. When I started writing this book a year after my son died in 2012. I didn't finish it until 2020. Prior to the pandemic, I had only written about 20 pages. And it was because I was angry. Again, I'm not perfect. I was angry. I was pissed off.
Angry about what?
I changed my life because of my kids. I mean, I've had opportunities to have jobs in other cities, other places, making way more money than I ever made here. And I turned them down because growing up without my biological father, my grandfather stood in the gap, but growing up without my biological father, I didn't want my kids to grow up without their father. So, I actually had custody of them for 7 years by myself. So I didn't want my kids growing up without a dad. So I made those decisions. I mean, if I tell you that I was paying $900 a month child support from like 2004 to 2000, imagine what I could have done with that money if I only had to pay half of that because only one of those kids was mine.
Right.
So like there are a lot of things that I went through that a lot of people would be angry about. But I'm not. One thing that book taught me was don't live in regret. We can go coulda, shoulda, woulda all the time. Mm-hmm. And like even right now, the fact that I'm having this interview with you, this is a summation of everything that's happened to me from the time I was conceived to the time I turned on this computer. And if I change any of those things, then I may not be here right now. I may be dead right now. I could be in a better situation, but I like where I am right now. So don't be mad at things that happened in the past. Look at your situation. If you need to improve it, improve it. But like my situation is good. So everything that happened in my past made me who I am today. And I can't be mad about that.
Okay. Was there anything that surprised you that you actually put in the book that you thought you probably wouldn't put in the book?
The only thing that surprised me is that people thought it was interesting. Like last year when the pandemic hit.
Interesting.
I don't think I'm that interesting, but the people who read the book, like most people who read the book, read it in 1 or 2 days. Because once you get past chapter 3, it just kind of zooms.
It flows.
And when I sent the manuscript out to my friends, Kenny, Brene, and Lakeisha to read it, I'm like, I'm thinking about finishing this. What do y'all think? And all of them, their response was, well, what happened next? I'm like, what do you mean? Like, we want to know what happened next. So like I wrote the book in about 8 weeks because I would write like 5 or 10 pages, send it to them. They would check it up. Okay, so what happened next? And so it was like a what happened next until I finished the book. So,
That's awesome.
but then, for my other friend to find purpose in it and saying that, people need to read this because it could help them move through some things that they're dealing with. It's not just the gay issues, it's the forgiveness issues, it's the life issues. It's about how do you respond when things don't go your way, and a lot of us make bad decisions when we don't respond correctly.
Very true. That is so true. Now, Marvin gradually revealed his lifestyle of being gay to the family and friends in the book. How important it is for a gay person today to talk to their family and friends to tell them about their lifestyle?
One, I don't like calling it a lifestyle. It's just
okay.
My life.
What's the right word to say?
Just the fact that you're gay. I mean,
okay.
Golfing is a lifestyle.
Okay. I understand.
I tell people all the time, like, me being gay is so boring. Like, it's nothing it's just life. But but I think so. Here's the thing: as important as I think it is for people to be honest with who they are, I think it's even more important that people be accepting. Just yesterday in my job, I work at an AIDS service organization. I have a young man who's 22 years old. He's a student. Recently found out he was HIV positive, but even before that, his parents had kicked him out because he was gay.
Right.
I don't want to hear no Bible verse. I don't want to hear nothing from no scripture. I want you to tell me where the Bible says you should throw your child out because they're gay. I want somebody to find that and send it to me.
It's not there.
That's not love. If
it's not.
God is love, Jesus is love, I want to know what the love in that is. So like when you tell people that they should be honest with who they are, it's fine if you're safe to do that. I was gently drugged out of the closet by my baby sister. And it was a great experience. Like, she was my advocate for the rest of the family. Not that there was ever a lot of pushback, but like my family openly embraced who I was. And so I had a good experience. To no lie, the weekend after I told one of my friends about it who went to Alabama A&M, and Sherman was a bit of a big feminine guy. But he almost reminded you of a girl to a point. And so I'm like, who didn't know he was gay? Literally, he decided to get the big idea to go home and tell his folks that he was gay, and they put him out. I'm like, Stephen Wonder could see that this boy is gay. Why are y'all so surprised? Just because he uttered the words? So like with us uttering the words, people can see that you have all the non-traditional masculine qualities. You sew, you sing, you play, you dance, and nothing about that until you say it. Once you say it, for some reason, that makes it all worse.
And
so coming out can be a bit of a trick. But people need to do that where it's safe. I'm a safe space for people. If you feel like you need to talk to me about something, you can find me on social media. But I want people to feel safe when they do that. But a lot of times it's just not safe for people to say who they are because people don't want you walking in your truth.
That's very true. You're absolutely correct. I've talked to, we've interviewed quite a bit here at Rolling Out, transgender as well as gay, and I've heard that story time and time again. Yeah. Young, especially the older transgender who said, in Atlanta that were put out, at 14, 15, 16 years old, and then at the same time you don't have no place to stay. So what do you do?
Sex work.
Right. Exactly.
Let me just say this, like literally, like again, I work at a organization that helps people live with HIV, and I have a couple of youth programs that I've started. But people don't understand that homelessness is one of the leading causes for HIV. Well, how does that happen?
100, yes.
Well, if I don't have any place to live, I'm staying with this person, and they want to have sex with me in order for me to stay there. I can't say, bro, could you put on a condom? Because then they're gonna say no. So I got to do whatever I need to do to survive. But this is because somebody's parent put them out. And we don't take any responsibility for that.
Exactly.
Not letting God say it, but you put me out.
Right. And that's exactly the stories that's told. They say, it's like, well, why don't you work with take? Say, even if I tell them, do you want this money? Either you do what I tell you to do, or whatever.
One of the most mind-blowing things that I discovered when I started doing this work, when we do an HIV test, we ask like a risk assessment, talk about the sex you have, the type of sex you have. But people who do sex work, they will tell you they make more money for condomless sex than they do for sex with a condom. So you got a choice to make. You could decide you're gonna screw 3 people for $100 a night, or you're gonna screw one for $300. Those are your choices.
That's your choice, exactly.
Those are your choices.
Wow.
You know, and once he comes with his cut, you know, what you gonna do? So like, you know, I really wish people would open their eyes and realize that we're all the same. If you believe in God, we're all God's children, like regardless of how we identify.
Right. You're absolutely correct. How important is it for Black writers to write and tell their stories like what you told?
Oh my God, it's vitally important for a lot of different reasons. You know, I'm of a certain age in which most of the books that I read in elementary school and high school were all about white people. Like we literally were not written into a whole lot of narratives, you know, prior to now. Like I love the fact that we have Black producers and directors who are like creating content for us. But for Black writers, I think it's vitally important, especially for Black children's writers, because children need to see something that they can aspire to be. You know, we all need to see things that look like us, that remind us of us, that we perceive as normal. Because really, being Black somehow has become like a novelty for some people, but we're not a novelty. You know, we're just as important. We can speak about things that don't pertain to the Black experience, just like, you know, white people think they're the experts on everything.
For real?
Yeah, if you don't believe it,
I'm messing with you. I'm messing with you.
I'm messing with you. But literally, like, they are the experts on everything, even us. Like, I know Black people. No, you don't know Black people.
No, you don't know Black people.
Don't know. You know that one Black person that probably ain't got no Black friends to hang out with you, but don't let them be the standard that you measure the rest of. I call them lowercase b Black people, but that's a whole other story.
So lowercase b.
Lowercase b. You just Black in color. Nothing else about you says Black.
That's funny, but you're right. What advice do you give that young brother or sister who wants to write a book?
It depends on if it's gonna be like a memoir. Like, be honest, but also be fair with yourself. Not every story needs to be told.
True.
But if you are going to tell it, be able to tell it with some fidelity. Like, literally, if someone were to say, well, Tony, well, this didn't happen, I can prove that this happened. I know that this happened. You know, I can prove that the court date happened that I told you about when I volunteered to give money. You know, I can show you the check stubs when I got child support. You know, I can prove that. So like, make sure that you're telling a story that needs to be told, and tell it with integrity. You know, I didn't set out to write this book to make anybody feel bad, anybody look bad. It started off as therapy for me. But then other people found enjoyment out of it. And a lot of people have told me that it's kind of made them make some changes to their lives. So, you know,
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Take the first step.
Right. Now, you, correct me if I'm wrong, you one of the founders, coordinators of Gay Pride Celebration in Birmingham. Is that correct?
Beham Black Pride. Yeah, we started it 4 years ago. Me and my friend Crystal and Chris.
So based upon what you started, is there any equality between ethnicities, or are there any segregation, you know, when y'all do your events?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like, so like for that, you have, and this might piss some white people off if they watch this, but they'll be all right. But like even after our first year, we got a lot of flack from white people who felt like, well, you know, we have our Pride celebration in June and we want to join in with y'all. For 10 years, we've been trying to get y'all to just put a party that we're going to throw and pay for on a flyer, and you didn't want to do it. Imagine having a Pride organization with no Black people on. And the Black people that they have on there, they don't stay long. They may have one, and then that Black person won't shut up. They put them off. So now they reinvented themselves yet again for the third time in the last 3 years. And they got some more Black people on there, and we'll just see how this goes. But we literally created Black Pride as not really as a protest, but as an advocacy model for us. Like, if you don't want us at your table, we will create our own table. And again, going back to the whole civil rights argument, again, white people think that being gay is like the end all do all, but y'all just as racist as your straight counterparts. Like, I don't understand why you want to make this a civil rights issue when you still only believe in rights for yourself.
Right. That's deep what you just said. That's deep, but it's true. You're right, because I never looked at it that way. So even though you claim these things, at the end of the day, you still have some of the same beliefs and behavior as your ancestors, as well as
your grandma and granddad do now.
Exactly. Wow.
And not all of them. I got some cool. My white friends are cool. Like, the church I go to, believe it or not, is majority white. I'm probably the only Black man in my church, but I got some cool white people in my corner. And you can't be friends with me and be white if you ain't cool and have checked your privilege. Because I'm going to test you every day.
So they have been vetted.
They've been vetted. They are the truth. They are the truth.
There are still some stigmas of in our community when it comes to things like mental health, mental illness. How would you say the book could kind of address some of those issues of any, not necessarily illness, but just the whole, this being the mental.
I don't think I need to. I'm going to reread my book so I can prepare to start the second one. But I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but I got a therapist about 3 years ago.
Yes.
And therapy works. Therapy is vitally important for people who are going through things. In the Black community, we will stigmatize a sneeze if need be. There's no reason to be stigmatized in therapy, because somebody who probably needs to go to therapy won't go because of the stupid stuff that people say. But my therapist helped me out tremendously. Like, I don't know who lives he saved in the last couple of years, but like, he helped me deal with a lot of stuff that I had bottled up. And it's almost like once you get help for one thing, it kind of helps you with other things. I initially went to therapy because my best friend died when I was coming through my cancer surgery.
Right.
I was intubated because I had a rough surgery. But when they took the tube out and brought me back, I found out my best friend was dead. I was in the hospital, got out the day before her funeral, could barely make it to the funeral. As a matter of fact, 2 of my friends made me leave the funeral because I was in no shape to be at that funeral. I honestly wasn't. But because of my therapist, whenever I talk about Sonya, like if I just mention her name, I would just like bawl and start crying. This like 4 or 5 years after she had died. And my therapist helped me realize it was because I was angry. It helped me process my anger. And so now I can talk, like literally by now in a conversation about her, I'm supposed to be out cold. But he helped me process that anger. And you don't think about when people die to you, people that you love, that your response to their death is rooted in anger, but sometimes it is. And I was angry with her for not being here for me. And
that's deep. Yeah.
Yeah. And he helped me move through that. And it helped me release the anger that I had from my ex and the stuff that she put me through. It even helped me release the anger that I had from my biological son, who we don't have a relationship now because of his mom. So like, it helped me clear my slate.
And what you just said also goes all the way back to the forgiveness also, because all that ties all back into forgiveness.
So yeah, anger is at the core of when people don't forgive. Once you get rid of that anger, it's easy to forgive after that.
Wow. Before we go, a couple of fun questions. What are some of Tony's non-work related hobbies?
I fly my drone.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a Mavic.
You got your license?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm flying dirty.
Well, I asked because a lot of people don't realize if you get your license, there's a lot of real money in flying drones.
Yeah, my boyfriend was telling me about that. There's some class that you can get certified for, but I don't have time for anything else. Like, I wish I did.
So it really is. That really is a non work-related hobby that you just enjoy flying a drone?
Yeah, I'm a photographer. If you go to my Facebook page, or I take pictures. I can't do that anymore because I'm really, really busy with my job. There are a lot of things I like doing. I like crazy cartoons like Bob's Burgers and Family Guy.
Those are good.
And
Those
I
are two
love
good
comic
ones.
Yeah, those are some of my hobbies.
Okay. Favorite guilty pleasure?
Chocolate,
Any kind of chocolate?
dark chocolate in particular, but chocolate.
Okay. All right. Favorite music? Who you listening to right now?
Woo. I have a list. So like I go from everybody from like Lizzo to Chloe and Halle, Chloe by herself, Juice World. There's a young lady who I discovered on TikTok named Way McDonald. She was on The Voice. She has a really, really squeaky voice like Michelle A, but when she sings, the girl can go. And she has this song called White Chocolate that I love right now. I like a lot of different types of music. I really do. I like everything but like country and hard rock. Okay.
When we get back to a little sense of normalcy, a favorite vacation spot?
We're not gonna get back to that, so y'all need to let that go.
He said, I'm in agreement. I mean, it's gonna be a
people are bound and determined to keep us in bondage a little bit more, baby. They don't want you to get out. I like the beach. I really like the Florida beaches, like around Pensacola, Fort Walton. One is relatively inexpensive and close to where I live, but I like that. But I do want to go, like, I got some bucket list places. Like I want to go to Yosemite. I want to go to the Grand Canyon. Mm-hmm. I want to see the hot springs. I actually want to take an Alaskan cruise before we lose all the glaciers and Miami goes away.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been talking with the author, Mr. Tony Christon-Walker, and his new book, Walking in Truth, Fatherhood. Is currently available on blackbookstore.com. If you have not picked it up, make sure you pick it up. Before we leave, Tony, share with everyone your social media handles so they can follow you and keep up with you.
So on Instagram, I'm at dark_skinned hero. On TikTok, I'm at walk6076. And Tony Christon-Walker on Facebook. But be careful if you friend me, because I'll put up with people's foolishness. You will get blocked.
Lady, Tony, thank you, man, for your time. Thank you for being candid. Thank you for your creativity. Continue being authentic, and let all your words be out for people to know who you are. And we look forward to this trilogy that you have coming out. But right now, this is the book to be.
That's me at 7.
That's you at 7.
Yeah,
I knew that was you.
I wish I could have told him who he was gonna be. He would have had a much better life.
No, you said it earlier. You know, even though we say those things, you said it right. You were right where you are, where you need to be right now. Thank you, Tony. And we look forward for more work from you, and we'll be talking soon.
All right, man.